Happy Boxing Day, everyone. Marquis of Queensberry rules apply. And an inadvertent Christmas present to myself arrived. 5-6 months ago, I had done a video comparing the pickups in this Strat to the pickups in a friend's Strat. And this Strat had Suhr V63 LPSs for neck and middle, which sounded really good, but the single coil buzz was really difficult for me with testing amps. I have a very electronically noisy house. It's very old. And most of my guitars have humbuckers, or my main Strat has got Kinman noiseless pickups, and those sound great. And I've got a Telecaster. It's got the DiMarzio area Ts, which are okay. I think I'm going to phase those out. But after playing my friend's Strat, which had the DiMarzio area 61s, which were quiet, but I didn't really care for the noise, care for the attack. I thought that they didn't have what I was looking for. But I really liked the sound of the pearly gates, the Duncan pearly gates he had in the bridge compared to the Thornbucker from Suhr that I had in this Strat. I decided, okay, well, let me get a pearly gates, and I'm gonna try some of those Mojotones, the quiet coils. And so I ordered the quiet coils, and they were back ordered, because they're having issues getting all the components because of the distribution issues of 2021. They finally arrived. Some more on that. They arrived Christmas Eve. So 5-6 months ago, I ordered these. They just arrived in time to be an inadvertent Christmas present to myself. So on Boxing Day, I shall unbox them. And also due to supply issues, Duncan did not have any F-spaced, Fender-spaced pearly gates available. And I ordered a very similar pickup, had a very similar pickup made by Manlius, who does good work. And according to the Duncan spec, it's a 8.2K Alnico 2 humbucker. Now, the trouble with the Duncan spec is that they have like 6 different PAF pickups that are all 8.2K Alnico 2s. And Mr. Manlius said that he knew the specs on the Duncan pearly gates, and it's just a little bit of an imbalance in the windings, but you still end up at 8.2K. I said, great, please make me one. And he sent me one, and it went originally, this is the one, originally in this pickguard, which was on the Strat the first 3 years of its life. And I took out the Thornbucker, which was good, but just sounded a little bit dark and a little less crisp than the pearly gates. And I put in the faux pearly. I'm not going to get into the Duncan pearly gates versus the whiskey buckers, whatever Billy's endorsing this week, which is supposed to be the actual pearly gate sound for $500 as opposed to $125. But anyway, the sound difference between this pickup and this pickup was marginal. Very slight differences, Alnico 4 versus Alnico 2, but it wasn't a huge difference. And so I also noticed my friend's guitar, where I like the bridge pickup sound better, the pickup is closer to the bridge than on this original one. And a lot of Fenders have the bridge pickup placement here. And with all other dimensions of the pickguard being the same, on the old pickguard, that is a distance of 0.573 inches. And on the new, it's a little bit harder to do on this because the pickup's in place. It's 0.437. So not a huge difference, but enough to make a very audible difference. So I put this pickguard on the guitar, and I put in the Manlius pickup, and I had the treble response I was liking. But remember that both the Manlius A2 and the Suhr A4 sounded more mid-rangey in this pickguard. And so I expect that this A4 will also have much of the treble response I like in this new pickguard. And the reason I mentioned this is because of some of the wiring things I have done and what the sounds I need to get out of this guitar are. The manliest sounds really good in series humbucking mode, and it sounds really good with the full pickup in combination with the middle, and it sounds really good with this blender pot with the full humbucker with the neck pickup, which is the Gilmore kind of thing, which is a nice little thing to do. You can get neck and bridge, you can get all three. And then I also have a parallel mode push-pull here. So series for the humbucker, parallel for the humbucker. And that plus that gives me a different sound than that plus that. And that plus that gives me a different sound than that plus that. And while the manliest sounded really good in series mode, full humbucking mode, in parallel mode, it didn't have as much noise rejection as this one. This was quieter in parallel mode. So I'm going to reinstall this and see if I which one of these two wins out. I'm going for a very specific thing, including the bridge in parallel mode by itself. And this is going to be kind of a fanboy thing for me, but it's my guitar, my money. I can do this. I love Alex Lifeson. I love Rush. You guys know this. And I've got the SG, and I've got the Les Paul. And those both do all the 70s Rush, and they do all the Zeppelin I Want and the Blues Breakers. I mean, it's a Les Paul or an SG with PAFs. That sound is there. Either one of these humbuckers will give me kind of the Grace Under Pressure, Moving Pictures Grace Under Pressure thing without doing the full Bill Lawrence 14K monster that Lifeson had. I don't care about getting that specific. I don't care. I want to be able to get that kind of sound without tracking down a 1981 Bill Lawrence. And either of these pickups, which are 8.2K, and I think, let's see what this one is. Well, it's got series parallel here, so I can't measure it right now. I think it's like 8.4, 8.6. Both of these get in the ballpark. They can do that Lifeson thing. They can do that. They can approach the Van Halen thing. Van Halen used a lot of different humbuckers, from some stuff in the mid-8s up to stuff in the 14K range. Now, I'm also not going to get into DCR versus output level. DCR, if that is the only thing that changes between two pickups, does correlate to output level, and it's a useful guide, but that's not the only thing that determines the output level of a pickup. The wire gauge, number of lines, et cetera, et cetera. But the full humbucker will give me the Moving Pictures and Grace Under Pressure sounds I like. But I also really like the Power Windows and Hold Your Fire stuff. And I know it's trendy not to like that stuff, but that's what I grew up listening to. That was my introduction. And I love that stuff, like on Marathon, like on Mission, like on Force 10. And Lifeson, Lurkst, good old Lurkst, was using an Evans single coil, active single coil. And I'm certainly not going to track one of those down. But the sound of a humbucker in parallel can actually sound pretty close to that if it's the right distance from the bridge. So I expect that with either one of these pickups, and I think this one's going to win out because it's got a little bit more noise rejection, I guess because the cover. And, you know, John Suhr does great stuff, and he's a friend of mine. He spec'd out a very, very good, almost completely transparent nickel cover for these things. This was not just something off the shelf. He had these spec'd out. So it does not really roll off highs, but it does provide additional shielding. So I think this pickup in parallel mode by itself ought to do some of that nice wiry attacky stuff that Lifeson had. Now, when you get to hear this, I'm probably not going to set up a whole bunch of spatial expanders and choruses and 3 delays at once and 3 different kinds of reverb. You know, maybe later down the line we'll hear that, but I'll know even into a deluxe reverb, which is what I've got waiting for this, whether that sound is waiting for me. but it also gives me the ability to have two different sounds of bridge neck, whether it's in series or parallel, and the ability to blend the neck pickup in with any of those combinations. So this should be a very flexible Strat. Other than that, if this knob's down, if this is on 10, it's a straight 5-way. You know, that plus that plus that, and full humbucking. That sounds better to me than split coil, and then full humbucker. So if I had this up for some kind of series thing, real fast, big beefy sound, and I won't use this very often. This is going to be a very specific kind of thing, but it's easy to roll it up real fast and make the neck pickup go away from wherever I'm at here. Enough talk. Let me disconnect these Suhrs, which are really good sounding single coils, but I need the full hum rejection of a humbucker, and these Mojotones are humbuckers. We'll take a look at those in a minute. So let me disconnect this stuff and get these pickups out. And a note on the Suhr single coils. If you buy a top-of-the-line Suhr with his single coils, he also has a special dummy coil circuit. I can't remember what he calls it. Anyway, it cancels out the noise, so you have real single coils without that noise. But while I'm friends with John, I've not abused that to get that system for this guitar, because he needs to protect his brand. He does not need to have his stuff and some dude who knows John a little bit's copy. And there's also the Ipswich version, which is a great big thing, but I think it's going to be simpler just to get some humbuckers. I think these are side by side rather than stacked, but we'll take a peek. If you're wondering about the ever so attractive towel background, my bench and its cutting mount surface, even when I clean it, has got so many little bitty snippets and bits of metal on it from working on the amps. And I'm about to have all these pickups with their magnets, and I just don't want each pickup to get a nice dusting of little bits of metal on the pole pieces. So I've got this towel down. So these are the 67 quiet coils, and I've not even heard them. I'm going on a hunch here. They sell the 58 and the 67. And the 58, hopefully they do what they say on the 10. I've got that Eric Johnson Strat with the Kinman traditional Mark IIs, which are his version at the time, at least of a 56. So if there's any truth to the sound associated with different decades, I've already got the late 50s Strat kind of thing. And 67, okay, work for Hendrix, work for Gilmore, with his big headstock Strat. I'm not that fussed about it. It's not like this thing's a maple neck with a second glued on fingerboard. I'm not really having anything from 67 or 58, no matter what pickups I put in. But anyway, white covers, neck, middle. I'm not sure what difference there would be between the two. But I just want to point out the packaging. I love good design. I love good packaging. These things are fun, so yeah. Premium pickups, handcrafted in Burgaud, North Carolina. The ingredients list, nice touch. May contain cloth-covered wire. Someone had fun with this and put a lot of time into this, and a lot of guys are just going to tear open the box and not even look at it. So to whoever did this, you guy, you gal, well done. I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that, and for this as well. I like it so much, I'll even make sure it's in focus for everyone at home. Stadium 100%. I'm not sure about the family reunion, but let's see what they look like and sound like. But seriously, that's just a nice little extra that tells me that someone really enjoys what they do. All right, this is the middle pickup. Let's try to discuss this without the blinding flashes from the bench light, sorry. So it's got a metal base plate, which is grounded. And from the top, it looks like a traditional Strat. Very heavy duty feeling. Let's take these screws out. Mine are bone to pick. It just kind of depends on the pick guard you have, but these are pan head screws, which are flat, and the pick guard I have uses oval profile screws, but that's okay. I've got oval screws here. I may use these surgical tubing mounts rather than the spring mounts I had before. Can make for a quieter guitar, but here's the oval profile versus the pan head. This sits flusher on the pick guard. Anyway, I'll get these. Let's see if I can, how easily the surgical tubing comes off. Sometimes this is the bane of my existence. All right, no big whoop. Okay, good. I think I'll be using the surgical tubing on the pickups. Speaking of which, just a side note, I need to look through my stash. Let me get this to be a little more visible. The mounting frames are different on the Suhr pickup than the manlius, and with these humbucking screws and these springs, a little bit of wobble. I really need a longer spring or some surgical tubing, so that'll have a little bit more resistance. So I will take a look at my stash real quick and see what I got. Couldn't find my stash of surgical tubing, but I did find some longer springs, so good. All right, new springs in. It doesn't have the big bad wobbles. So let's go to the next fun step. All right, on the Mojotone, that cover does not come off. So whatever is beneath there, they don't want you to see it. I think it's a side-by-side humbucker coil. Anyway, I just verified with the meter. This is a 5.8K. This is an 8.88K. And with the meter, I verified, I think, the polarity. So they should be in phase with each other. But I'm going to confirm that before I trim any of these wires down. And this is a case where if I need to reverse the polarity, I also need to reverse where this wire is to this base plate. So if I got to flip the polarity of these, I got to do it here. It'd be easier to do on the 4-conductor humbucker. But anyway, let me wire one up and make sure that it's in phase between these two, and then I should be able to trim things and shorten them up. Okay, I was able to confirm that they are in phase with each other. We're not going to get into it because it doesn't apply to these humbuckers, but in phase, out of phase is not the same thing as reverse wound. Reverse wound gives you cancellation in positions 2 and 4 on a Strat with traditional single coils, and that's what these Suhrs offer. But especially on a Strat, where you have to take all the strings off to really pull the pick guard, it's nice to know that everything's in phase with each other before I do all the neat twisting and soldering and put everything back together. So let me install this middle pickup more properly than this. Then I'll do the neck, and we'll take a look at that, and then we'll pop it in the guitar and see what things sound like. All right, both guitars are wired. Both pickups are wired in place. The twisted wire that they have, the leads, solid core underneath that cloth, so that's stiff enough. I don't need to do any ties or anything. That's going to stay in place when I put it in the back of the guitar. Before I do that, I do have one minor niggle about these pickups, and it's the covers. Mojotone describes the color as white. Here's Suhr's white. Here's a new white fit pickguard. They've got a little bit of a mint to them, which a lot of guys will love. A lot of guys won't notice. I wish if it said white on the description that it was white. If it was mint, that it said mint or parchment or ivory or all the little gradations. You can always darken a white cover. You can't lighten one. So I'm going to talk to the guys at Mojotone after the holidays. I'll talk to them next year, and see if they actually have white covers, if they're field replaceable. Of course, it took me 6 months to get these pickups, so maybe next year before I could have white. But you know, that's the kind of thing that bothers me. Won't necessarily be noticeable to anyone else, but I think they should refine their options a bit, or at least be a little more descriptive on what they mean by white. And it may not come across in the video, but it's apparent to the eye. Anyway, I'm about to pop this back on the guitar and final look at the wiring. Series parallel, blender pot for the neck pickup, the Gilmore thing. Everything else is fairly standard. Oh, I guess I should mention these Mojotone quiet coils. They recommend a 500K pot, just like on the Suhr humbucker or the manliest humbucker. So I used to have a resistor to ground for these positions that put them at the volume pot at 250K. That's no longer in there. This is a super switch, though I'm not using it for the super switching. I could do all kind of stuff where that position's parallel, that one's series, that one's blah, blah, blah. I already got enough things here with that and that anymore is just option paralysis. All right, they're installed. They're all working. I just set the pickups to a rough height. I never judge a pickup based on just playing it, installing it, and playing it. You know, you got to find the right position, the right height for each pickup by itself in relation to the others. You know, so this is not a final opinion on these quiet coil 67s from Mojotone. This is an initial taking them for a spin around the block. All right, so this is my alder Strat with a maple neck with rosewood fingerboard, medium jumbos, Goto 510 with the traditional bridge. I like this bridge a lot. For everything I need a trim to do, it does the Floyd stuff. You know, it won't do the extreme whammy stuff or the vise stuff, but I don't do that. For everything I need it to do, it stays in tune well, it sounds good, and it can still get some traditional sounds. I've got it set so that it is floating, but it is parallel to the face of the body. So it returns to zero really well. These are new strings. These are Diodario NY-XL 9s. And they still got a little stretching to do, so the tuning won't be as stable as it will be in a couple hours, but it's pretty good already. I just switched from the regular XLs to the NY-XLs on this guitar. Had to tweak the intonation just a minor amount, and I might need to adjust the relief a little bit, both not because of the string change so much as the weather change, but I'll deal with that later. Here's what the pickups sound like. So let's do neck, and it's very nice not to have the single coil noise that I'm used to having. It sounds good. It does not sound great yet. I've got to tweak the pickup height and all that. So like I said, this is an initial reaction. Going to a deluxe reverb, volume at 4, treble and bass at 5.5, reverb on just enough to be pretty. That's a nice sound, those two together, as it, you know, just from initial setup. Middle. That's good. It's got a different character than the middle did on the Suhr. Little more scooped, a little glassier. Liking that. Now I want to go to position 2. That's the full humbucker and the middle pickup. mentioned that I like the lifes and stuff. This is not the right amp for some of that stuff, but you know, I'll do some further tests with overdrive on that stuff. New strings. Promising. All right, so here's where the fun starts. So I've got that sound, full humbucker. That's full humbucker with the neck blended in. I'm gonna tune this real quick because it needs it. Much better. So that's full humbucker plus neck. I can do full humbucker plus middle and bring in a little bit of the neck. That's all three pickups. And then I can also go to the bridge in parallel mode. I think that'll do it. That gets that big, fat, wiry single coil sound. But I can also combine that with the middle. I could also combine that with the neck. It sounds kind of like a Telecaster. And then I can do all three in parallel. So for the initial setup, I'm pleased with it. I think this humbucker is going to work. And again, the main reason I went with this over the manliest I had made was just because this pickup is quieter in parallel mode. So now I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff like, all right, let's start with the pickup way too low. Have this extra long one here because I was setting the intonation. It's nice not to ding up the body. So let's go way too high. Actually sounds pretty good. Let's see if it has stratitis. Not too bad. Doesn't have the same string pull as some pickups, and I'm really close there. So it might be that these pickups end up being a good bit higher than the Kidman's or traditional single coils end up being. I'll play around with that. That really balances well with the bridge humbucker. It looks like a Strat pickup. It can sound like a Strat pickup, but that does not mean that it needs to be positioned where a Strat pickup is. The other thing that I noticed immediately when fiddling around with this before I started rolling the camera is I wired this 50s style so that the tone circuit, and it just has the one global tone on this, is on the wiper of the volume, which usually lets you get away without doing a treble bleed. But these pickups are not as bright as a true single coil, and I don't think that's going to be enough. So I think next string change, because I'm not going to bodge up trying to get this out with these strings in place, and I'm not going to sacrifice this new $11 pack of strings. Next string change, I'll put some very, very modest treble bleed cap on the volume pot, and I'll do a cap and resistor in series with each other. Just a very subtle thing. Doesn't need a lot. But notice the volume difference. Traditional Strat pickup height, what would normally be way too high and interfering with the strings and the magnets. That sounds really good to me. Maybe down a little bit on this side. I'm not going to bore you with watching me make all these little changes, but the thought process. The thought process is important. So I'm not trying to replicate any one sound precisely. If I get there with these modern humbuckers, that's how I get there. That's fine. This is a brand new guitar, and I also want to be able to get the very traditional sounds. But so far, I'm liking these quite a bit.